Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal EMAC coming to you with one Adam Ship My Money Share as we look at Tuesday's NBA slate with just 3 games courtesy of the association on the docket. We, of course, are recording this on Monday night. The only game that has not tipped off yet is the late night hammer between Dallas and the Los Angeles Clippers. Adam, how have you been doing?
Doing pretty well. Enjoying the huge Monday night slate so far, hoping the Bucks get things going a little bit. But yeah, basketball has been good lately.
I'm glad to hear that. It's been fun. For me, it's been up and down this weekend. Had a nice day there with NASCAR. Was up a couple $100 with 25 laps to go. Somehow there were no cautions in those last 25 laps, but 2 of my main guys fell off the lead lap, and I ended up winning 80 cents, Adam. 80 cents.
That is disappointing. Wait, so getting back 80 cents or profiting 80 cents?
Getting back 80 cents. Oh, profiting 80 cents.
Okay, that's a little better at least.
Yes, but it went from up $200 to less than $1. So without any fiery wrecks. Fortunately, I was 28-2 in cash games, so that was kind of nice. But my main team was my cash game lineup, and it just bubbled. It missed the 2 single entries I was in by literally 1.5 points. Which in NASCAR is not very much.
Right.
So, but on to next week. I think they're starting their. I think they're going out west. So they've got the Vegas and California and I think Phoenix events coming up. But anyway, let's talk a little NBA. We just have 3 games. We're going to go game by game, kind of old school here, like we did once upon a time when we used to not get so many Thursday and Tuesday games. We are looking at this Thursday has 6 games. So we'll do that one game by game. And then there's 7 games on Friday. There are 8 games on Saturday. There's technically 9, but one's tipping off at 5 o'clock. And then Sunday you get a 1 o'clock, 3:30 games, and then 4 starting at 6 o'clock or later. So things are getting spread out. Of course, things will get bunched up once again as we get into March Madness in the NCAA tournament, for which we will have content at osmo.com. If you have not yet joined, you can use the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, and get 50% off any 1-month package. Adam, the only news that we have here is Isaiah Briscoe out with concussion still. We've got Frankie Ntilikina is still out with a groin injury, no date for a return. DeAndre Jordan, who missed Sunday, is dealing with a sprained ankle. He is listed as doubtful. Kyrie rested in practice on Monday, but is probable to play. Kawhi rested during the game on Sunday, is probable to play. And then Toronto has also said that they will be looking to match Marc Gasol in Ibaka based on what the opponent's big man situation is. And then Oklahoma City is still working in Markieff Morris. He has played just 1 game thus far for them. I think he had 17 or 18 minutes. Didn't score, didn't do much of anything, but he was coming off a neck injury that kept him out of action for his last couple months that he was with the Wizards. Was there any other notable items that you saw?
Nope, I think that was it.
All right, well, let's get on to our first game here. It is Orlando in New York. Both these teams played on Sunday. Of course, wait for it, they did not play each other. They were in different games. But this one, somewhat intriguing because Nikola Vucevic has been absolutely outstanding this season. He is not likely to have to deal with DeAndre Jordan, Adam. And then on the other side, you've got Mitchell Robinson, who had himself a game, double-double with mid-teens in points and rebounds, and I just closed that window, but he had a handful of blocks as well on Sunday and was one of the better scoring options. Put up 45 fantasy points, 15 points, 14 boards, 5 blocks. We've got some nice big man option in this contest. Start us off here with the Magic.
Yeah, so starting off with Orlando. Vooch has been one of the best players in the NBA this season, averaging or posting assist, rebound, and usage percentages all over 20%. And you're seeing, you were seeing like 34 minutes a game. That's come down a bit. We're seeing closer to like 30 to 32 now, which is obviously a little bit, less favorable. But, still on the 3-game slate stands out as a good play. It is a difficult matchup from a defensive standpoint. As bad as the Knicks are as a team, the combination of Noah Vonleh and Mitchell Robinson is two, good defenders. So I don't want to like overstate it being a great spot, but he's pretty much matchup proof in that he can do so many things offensively that it doesn't really matter all that much.
The Knicks, as a team, checking in with the 20th best defense, or I guess you could call it the 10th worst. I did not realize this. The Magic are number 3, and this is basically using enough days to capture everybody with 14, 15, or 16 games. I went back a little more than 30 days to account for the All-Star break, just to kind of keep it into terms that we're used to seeing. So that was a little bit surprising for me. I had not realized how good that the Magic had been lately. I just always have in my mind that they have not been that great of a team, but new coaching staff, couple newer players, or addition by subtraction if you want to go that route. So kind of interesting with that. Looking at the rest of the Orlando side, you've got Aaron Gordon. I never know what to do with him, Adam. I prefer to not play him. I would rather turn around and go to Jonathan Isaac. Evan Fournier is also a roll of the dice. And then you've got University of Washington stalwart Terrence Ross. Boom bust guy, has been actually a little better than average lately, as opposed to his craptastic sub 12 fantasy point games or plus 30 fantasy point games. He's been a little steady, consistently getting above the 20 mark and into the 30 mark. And then DJ Augustine, it's only 6 teams in our player pool, Adam. We're going to have to look at some of these other Magics.
The other Magics, yeah.
I know. Damn it.
I was actually listening that time.
I could have said the other Magi, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, $4,100 DJ Augustine, getting around 28 minutes from him, I think is a really quality value option here. Terrence Ross in tournaments, absolutely no question. In competitive games, normally we'll see 28, 29 minutes, and he's got the second highest usage rate on the team behind Vucevic. So yeah, I think Terrence Ross obviously a good play. Yeah, it's just most of the prices on these guys are not that appealing. DJ Augustine being the exception, but they mostly seem priced pretty correctly.
Yeah. Now this is we haven't had a small slate like this in a little while, unless of course you've been playing some of the late slates or stuff on Sundays. But one of the things that we've said, now I'll be playing this. I now subscribe to the play all the days, all the slates. But on a day like this, where there's some less than appealing options, I will go more, or I will play less than I normally do volume-wise. So I'll drop down into some lower priced contests, or I won't play as many lineups, just because it's harder and harder to find the edge on these short slates. If you think you have found one, it is very amplified if you hammer it. So there is a risk reward there, but you can also get creamed if you incorrectly make a stand, and one of the more popular plays ends up doing very, very well. Looking at the Knicks, Adam, they are just all over the board. Dennis Smith Jr. and Emmanuel Mudiay playing a little bit together, but doing, I watched that game yesterday on Sunday, and it was actually kind of a fun game watching him. Kevin Knox was just knocking down shots. He makes me nervous. I don't particularly care to play for him. I was pretty heavy on Damian Dotson, though, and he had a career high. I want to say he had like 7 3-pointers or something along those lines. So that was nice, but obviously career high is not something you can repeat quite often. Let's see, he had 8, and that gives him 13 in his last 2 games. But prior to that, it took him basically 10 games to get 13 3-pointers. So your mileage may vary, but he clearly was feeling it, and they had given him the green light in a game where the Knicks finished or ended their 18-game losing streak in Madison Square Garden. Adam, yikes, that's a long time to lose at home. Now, looking at these, I think I would rank them 1, Mitchell Robinson for the price, but he's only center eligible. We also have Vucevic that we liked, and we're going to have a couple more. Then I'd next go to Dennis Smith Jr., and then I would go to Mudiay, and then I would look at Dotson and Mitchell Noah Vonleh. How do you want to approach this? We now have one more game under our belt of game logs to see what's, or box scores to see who's playing with whom, etc. Are you able to decipher anything at all with the Knicks?
No, not really. I mean, Damian Dotson, we've seen for a while that if Dotson's playing reasonably well, he'll get normally like 30 to 32 minutes. Got 36 last game, but will at least play more than 30. But even looking at the Mitchell Robinson and Noah Vonleh situation, Vonleh was in foul trouble. So while Mitchell Robinson played very, very well, and I expect him to play the bulk of the minutes, that's what you would expect them to do with Mitchell Robinson. It is at least worth pointing out, with it being a 3-game slate and everyone wanting to play Robinson, that Vonleh picked up his 3rd foul in the 2nd quarter, and that's why Robinson played the final 3 minutes of that quarter. Or sorry, he picked up 2 fouls, 2nd and 3rd foul, and then he picked up his 4th foul 2 minutes and 43 seconds into the 3rd. So Robinson subbed in early there. It's just no guarantee that you see a 30 to 18-minute split between them again, and you're going to see much more ownership on Robinson than Vonleh. So just something to keep in mind in tournaments. In cash games, obviously, just go to Mitchell Robinson. There's no reason to get cute there, but I think that's worth pointing out. And you kind of have a similar situation with Dennis Smith and with Moutier. In the first game with Moutier back, Moutier played like 26 minutes, and he actually played more minutes than Dennis Smith Jr. did, but Dennis Smith Jr. wasn't playing well. I think he might have been in foul trouble. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was something where it was very clearly that it was, just game flow based. So I expect the same thing there. We haven't seen them play a lot of minutes alongside each other, despite Fizdale saying that he wanted to play them alongside each other. He's continually unaware of he's allowed to make those decisions. So there's just no real consistency with this team right now, with the exception of Kevin Knox playing a bunch of minutes, but he's not very good. So that has its own risk.
Why do they keep giving him all the minutes? I mean, it looks like Robinson and Dotson have a little bit more talent than Knox.
I mean, Knox was their 1st round pick. Like, he's going to get his chances.
All right. Well, when you watch him, of all of them, although the other guys play, to be fair, they're playing less minutes, and I'm more biased for the last game because that was the one I watched in its entirety. But yeah, Knox is someone I always forget these guys are 19, 20 years old. They're plenty of time to get better. But
yeah, he's raw. He's super athletic.
That's the word I'm looking for. Raw. That's not very polished. But he's a guy that looks like he could do a bunch of different things because he can score. He could sort of create his own shot, at least relatively well for a big guy. But it's just not all the consistency. But again, youngsters. Let's move on to our next game here. We have Boston and Toronto. This one has Toronto favored by 4 at home, 226 over under. Apologies, I didn't give those stats for the last game. Orlando is 6-point road favorites, 215.5 over under in that one. Here we've got Boston. As mentioned, Kyrie sat out practice for rest purposes. On Monday, he is expected to play Tuesday night, as is Kawhi Leonard. Looking at the rest of the squads here, the only other person that's injured is of any note is Baines, and he won't be back for at least a few games. Let's see if they've updated his timetable. He says next week. This came out today. Next week he will then get the day-to-day tag. So helpful. So helpful. But we don't have to worry about that for a week. So starting here with Boston, you have a Kyrie Irving at 8,800. That is a relatively nice price point. He has not been below 8K, or pardon me, 9K in his last 10 games. So a little bit of a discount there. Al Horford has done relatively well in the 3 previous meetings here against Toronto. Now we do have Marc Gasol in the picture and not Jonas Valanciunas, and we'll have to see who starts, if it's going to be Gasol or if it's going to be Ibaka, but Horford's going to get his minutes. He's averaging just over a fantasy point per minute in the meetings with Toronto this season. What do you like here from the Celtics?
I mean, I like the price discount on Kyrie because we know that he's matchup proof. He's good enough to just go off against anyone, and playing, an important Eastern Conference game, what should be a competitive game, I think sets him up for, 35, 36 minutes, and his price tag really should not be coming down, even though the defense is good. And Al Horford as well. We've seen often in the more competitive games that he's getting, 34 to 36 minutes. And then in games that don't really matter, where Boston is clearly going to win, even if it's not a blowout, just the games where they consistently have like an 8 to 10 point lead, he plays, 30 to 31 minutes. So I think you could maybe see Horford pick up more minutes here than he'll normally be projected for.
All right, heading out to their wings, we've got Jason Tatum, 5,900, very favorable price tag. He has been hit or miss in his last few games, more hit than miss. He had topped 35 fantasy points for 3 in a row until he played a bit of a dud on Saturday night in Chicago, where he played 31 minutes, which was just a couple minutes less than his normal run, but he only got 18 fantasy points. Adam, that was kind of crappy. Didn't take very many shots, was 5 of 9 from the field. That was just a disappointing game in general there for the Celtics. I will forgive him on that one. But then you've got Marcus Morris, who is now sub 5,000. You've got Jaylen Brown, also below the $5,000 mark. Those guys are, their general range of outcomes was between 25 and 31 fantasy points per game. As we're looking here for some secondary options, do you like any of those guys? We do have a healthy Gordon Hayward. We've got Marcus Smart in the mix as well. It's a cast of thousands here for Coach Brad Stevens.
Yeah, I think the price tags are appealing, though. I mean, Gordon Hayward, as much as he has struggled this year, 4,300 for 25, 26 minutes of Hayward is probably a little cheap. Marcus Smart at 4,100, you're not going to feel good about it, but it certainly has some upside. And the same goes for Marcus Morris. So, any of these guys in that like low to mid 4K range, I have really no problem with.
All right, let's head on over here to the Raptors. We've got Kawhi in a nice matchup here. He has averaged 54 DraftKings points in the 3 prior meetings against the Celtics. We like to see that. He's also coming in at 9,200. That is rather pricey. We know that Kyle Lowry plays much better when Kawhi is not on the court, but he's going to be sharing the court with Kawhi, so not as interested in him. Pascal Siakam, Adam, has just been a revelation. He is another guy that's really putting it all together and just benefiting from increased steady playing time, being in the starting lineup, etc. I like all those guys. I'm going to pass on Jeremy Lin with the exception of the Jeremy Lin fan club, which is replacing the Fred Van Elite fan club, where I do have to play Jeremy Lin. I don't really want to play Jeremy Lin. So that's why you guys should jump in that contest. You can find it on my Twitter timeline at EMACDFS. Talk to us about the relevant Raptors.
Yeah, so I mean, it takes a lot of the appeal away from Kyle Lowry. Kawhi himself is probably a better FanDuel play than DraftKings play, just because of the position. On DraftKings, I really don't feel the need to pay up for him all that often, and today's not really an exception. Siakam, I really like. The price tag's getting to a point where it's a little tough when the Raptors are fully healthy to justify it. But again, it's a 3-game slate, so not as tough to do. Marcus All at 5,700 though, I think is pretty appealing, especially if he starts again. Obviously, we'll have to see more of kind of how these rotations play out, but we did see a few minutes of him alongside Ibaka, and going forward I would expect them, like you had mentioned earlier, to kind of continue experimenting with different lineups, because when you have Ibaka and Gasol out there, you do have spacing, you do have good passing. Siakam is athletic enough to be a big 3, so I think you'll continue to see them, play a couple of minutes alongside each other at least. And with it being a 3-game slate, 5,700 for Gasol, even if he plays 24 minutes, you can get, 30 plus out of him.
And let's see, he has played Boston twice already this year, even though he was in the Western Conference, averaged 37 fantasy points in 36 minutes per game. That is Marc Gasol. So that is nice to see, Adam. He, of course, is on the downward slope of his career, but he can still definitely get it done. That's a pretty nice price tag there for him. Anything else before we get on to the nightcap?
No, let's close it out.
All right, this is the 10:30 game, the true late night hammer. Before these guys tip off, the other 2 games will almost assuredly be done, unless, of course, there is an overtime. We have the Oklahoma City Thunder going to Denver to take on the Nuggets. We have Denver as 3-point home favorites here. This game has the highest of the 3 over-unders at 237 points. Russell Westbrook Nikolai Jokic, and then Paul George. All three are in five figures, Adam, for this contest. Talk about Westbrook and potential MVP, Paul George.
Pretty clearly the most appealing game on the slate. I don't think it's even close. Obviously Westbrook and George, both very, very good plays, very good DFS, very, very good fantasy producers. Paul George is just kind of on another level from an overall basketball standpoint. When you look at what he does defensively and what he does offensively, he just makes this team so much better. Again, like I'd rather pay 10-4 for George than pay 9,200 for Kawhi on DraftKings. And on FanDuel, George is valuable just because, again, the small forward position is not all that strong. So really like George, obviously like Westbrook a lot as well. With it being a 3-game slate, it'll probably be difficult to find enough value to get both of them in, quality lineups, but obviously two of the top plays on the slate.
All right, as you go down a little lower, it kind of gets to be a bit of a mess here for the Thunder, Adam. They've got Steven Adams, whose minutes have been up and down. He did play a lot in that double overtime game. I think there were some repercussions there after that where he saw less minutes. We saw Nerlens Noel get in there for around 20. Usually Adams gets closer to 28, 30, and Noel usually doesn't crack much more than the mid-teens. You've also got Jeremy Grant in there, but of course he's got Markieff Morris over his shoulder, so that kind of hurts some of our minutes in this particular matchup. And then you've got Ferguson in the mix as well. Never seems to do a lot, but he is 3,800 and he will be starting, so we have to point that out. As you look to the secondary options here on the Thunder, do any of them stand out at first blush?
I think Dennis Schroeder's too cheap at 4,300. His minutes obviously are inconsistent, but we know that he comes with upside, whereas guys like Terrence Ferguson just don't. So I'd rather just find $500 for Schroeder. Jeremy Grant come down a bit. Like you said, Markieff Morris being there doesn't do him any favors, but at 4,600, there's still some value. And then Steven Adams, at 5,600, his rebounding numbers have been pretty bad lately. We've seen Westbrook more than normal just taking the rebounds away from him. And that's something that you have to deal with. But this is a matchup where you should see Adams on the floor for, close to 36 minutes dealing with Jokic and Plumlee at the 5, two guys who they can use Adams' defensive presence out there. So on a slate where there's just really not a lot to like and not a lot of value, you like in this price range, I mentioned that I had some interest in Gasol at 5,700, but you have Steven Adams probably playing 12 minutes more than Marc Gasol for $100 less.
Yeah, we're going to have some choices here. And again, this goes to the if you leverage appropriately and it works out for you, you are going to gain on the field. If you don't, it's like stepping off the curb and getting run over by the old garbage truck. Moving on to Denver here, we have Jokic, who has been just phenomenal this season. I mean, he's averaging a 20, 11, and almost 8 assists per game. That's pretty darn good. He's coming in at $10,000 even, but now everybody is healthy for Denver. So we've got Paul Millsap, who has been seeing minutes in the last few games in the low 30s. That's nice to see. He's knocked it out of the park, Adam. He's got 52, 46, and 55 DraftKings points in each of his last 3, playing 31, 32, and 32 minutes. That's a nice per minute production there. We know that Jamal Murray is going to be handling most of the point guard duties, but wait for it, Jokic does a lot of the assists. We've got Will Barton and Gary Harris back. You've got Malik Beasley lurking there. There's just a lot of options. And oh yeah, Isaiah Thomas is now getting minutes. What are we going to do here with Denver?
Denver's kind of a mess right now with everyone healthy. But at the same time, it's an appealing matchup because Oklahoma City plays at such a fast pace. So I think that looking either to the, kind of cheap, underpriced guys like Barton and Harris makes sense. Harris probably playing around 25 minutes. Barton should play around 28. You don't really know what you're going to get from either one, but they're cheap enough that they offer you some upside. And then also, Jokic, obviously just one of the best fantasy plays that there is. He was a little disappointing in his last game, still scored, I think it was 53 DraftKings points, but was a little bit disappointing because he got in foul trouble and then the game blew out. Obviously expect around 34 minutes here, barring foul trouble or anything like that. He does enough on the offensive end that I'm not concerned about Steven Adams' presence. So I like Jokic. He's right up there with Paul George and Westbrook for me.
All right. The rest of the mix, I don't know that anybody stands out here right at the beginning, outside of Millsap. With these backcourts and wings, is there any that you would look to? We see that Murray's price is coming down just a little bit, but he hasn't had a big game in a while just because everybody is really back. Before you get into writing the deep dive, the premium article that'll be behind the paywall breaking down these 6 teams, is there any nuggets you want to pass along from the nuggets to our listeners?
Isaiah Thomas potentially. I mean, we know what he can do on a per minute basis. It's only a 3-game slate. There's no real clear value yet. So when you have a $3,800 guy like Isaiah, who, if he gets 16 minutes, he potentially can give you still, 22, 23 points. But if something weird happens, like last game, it was that the game blew out, but it could be that Jamal Murray gets in foul trouble with Westbrook or something like that. Just something weird. I mean, we saw Thomas play 24 minutes against the Clippers. That's not to say that it's going to happen consistently, but he's clearly physically able to do so. And I think that out of the really cheap guys on this slate, he's the one that has the easiest path to just breaking a slate open because all he has to do is get the minutes.
All right. With that, we're going to sign off. We'll do just a shorter podcast today because, hey, there's only 6 games. Again, you got a whole bunch coming in on Wednesday. You got quite a few on Thursday, a relatively nice slate on Friday and Saturday, and then a bunch on Sunday. So this is our bit of a breather here. Enjoy it while it lasts and have some fun here. So we are going to get on out of here. Reminder, you can catch the DFS strategy show starting around 9 a.m. or 9:15 on the Awesemo YouTube channel. That will be every weekday, including for this 3-game slate. And then you also get the deep dive, which is behind the paywall, which is why you want to use promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, to get 50% off any 1-month subscription. Jump on in there. Get that, get in the Slack. We also have the Deeper Dive show and the Live Before Lock in front of the paywall. I'm guessing some of those might be solo or combined shows since this is the first 3-game slate we have had in quite some time. But check out the YouTube channel. It'll have the schedule up of pending shows, and you can see how you want to play in your day. With that, we're going to get on out of here. You can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS. I am at EMACDFS, and of course, it is Awesemo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.